Hieronymous invites Daniel over for tea again, although this time it really is just tea. There are a few little biscuits and miniature sandwiches arranged on the table, but not much in the way of actual food this time. You have survived the worst of winter, and spring is now just over the horizon, Hieronymous tells him, which brings the exacerbable American tradition known as spring break. For freshmen such as yourself, it means an inconvenient week of holiday when you should be planning for your final studies. Your parents will not be visiting, nor will they be arranging passage for you. So, what do I do? Daniel asks, helping himself to another biscuit. He seems much more comfortable than he was when he was here last, and I wonder if they've made up since our last group meeting. You have been left to my discretion, Hieronymous replies. I am authorized to accompany you to a vacation destination if that is our mutual agreement. You would be under my supervision at all times and preferably within my sight. The risks of wanton mixing with the non-magical population should not be understated. This is a dangerous land. Alternatively, you can remain here throughout the term break as you did for the American Thanksgiving. Daniel seems to hesitate for a moment. Is Tori going to be coming too? Hieronymous rolls his eyes. If she insists. She does, I tell him as I turn back to Daniel. So where do you want to go? We could visit a tropical island, or a swamp, or the Wild West, or a theme park, or even Las Vegas. Do some gambling? That could be fun, right? Tori, Hieronymous warns, and I can't help but grin at him. Okay, maybe not Vegas, because we're both too young to gamble or drink legally in the States. But we could go to Hawaii, if you wanted. Spend time chilling on a beach and playing in the sand before you return to your forests until the end of time. I don't know, Daniel says as he looks down at his food. I wasn't expecting to need a plan. I'm not sure. We can return to the subject later, Hieronymous replies. For your records, the break period will begin on the 22nd of the month and run through the 30th. All right, Daniel says as he looks back at me. Are we done here? I wanted to talk to Tori about a few things. By all means, Hieronymous says, and I shoot him a tight-lipped smile as I get up and follow Daniel to the door. So I think we're all set, Daniel says once we get outside. I've collected all the money from everyone. Professor Van Braun is going to be chaperoning us because she's never seen a hockey game and she wants to see how it's done. She'll be going over there herself. A bunch of people are going to take the shuttles to the mall and just walk over when it's time for the match to start, since it's only a few blocks. It sounds like you have this all figured out, I tease him, ruffling his hair. Bravo! I'm very impressed with you. I bet your parents would be too. Have you told them? Daniel shakes his head. I thought you were writing to them. Hieronymous has been taking care of that, I say, mostly because I had been too wrapped up with my own problems to worry about it. But you should write them too. I'm sure they'd be happy to hear that you're taking initiative on this. Daniel just shrugs. I guess so. I never thought to bring this up with Professor Grabiner, honestly. I figured he will look down at his nose at a sport like hockey. Isn't it supposed to be violent? It can be, I reply with an errant shrug. No more violent than lacrosse, I guess. Daniel pauses for a moment. What's lacrosse? I shake my head. Bad analogy. Football? Oh, football. Daniel's face brightens. The one with the black and white ball. No, that's soccer, I say, before I shake my head again. Well, you're right that it is called football everywhere else in the world. I let my voice trail off. Hieronymous isn't a sports person, so I haven't told him about our trip either. I don't want to say that he'd suck all the fun out of it, but he wouldn't just be like, see you later, have a great time, either. Yeah, I figured as much, Daniel says before he looks up and punches my arm. Anyway, I should go meet Barbara and sort out any last-minute details. See you next week? See you, I reply as I watch him go. It seemed Daniel was really coming into his own at Iris, and for a moment, I almost felt bad for him. Here he was, making a life for himself, finding his place in the world, and that was all going to be rudely sucked away from him in just a few short months. Then he would have to spend the rest of his life committed to a destiny that he may or may not have wanted to fulfill. But maybe that was the life that Daniel wanted. Maybe I was just projecting because I still wasn't sure what I wanted. Hieronymous and I had never formally discussed his father's offer of boarding school. I assumed it was because Hieronymous wouldn't even consider it, but maybe it would be nice to have a change of pace, even if it was just for 1 year. I'd say I missed my friends, but then again, I hadn't been spending much time with them lately anyway. As much as I hated to say it, maybe I was just looking for something new, something different, something to capture my attention. My freshman year, I had been distracted by the drama of becoming married to my teacher, and last year I'd been fighting with Damien's memory shield before I was subjected to the changes of moving in with my husband and the trials and tribulations of married life. But this year felt like I was just going through the motions, and I wasn't sure why. At least I had Musette's drama to focus on. I had spent more nights with Hieronymous since Valentine's Day, so I hadn't been venturing out at all, and counted on Ellen to fill me in on what I was missing. All she told me was that Musette still didn't really remember any more of who she was, except that she did seem to remember that she liked using red magic the best. That didn't really surprise me. The week goes by quickly as I head back to class, and then, finally, the weekend strikes. I wake up early to get the mail done before Hieronymous is awake and catch the morning shuttle to the mall to hang out with everyone before the game starts. Most of us spend time at the arcade watching others try their hand on the dance machine or try to see if they can win something at the claw machine. No one does, but after a few hours of killing time, at last it is time for the long-awaited hockey game. We enter a large arena with rows of metal bleachers around the edges. They're not completely empty, but they're not packed full either. The lines and patterns for the game layout are colored inside the ice, not painted on top like I thought they would be. There's a large logo in the center of the rink that looks like a screaming bird, and the boards around the side of the ice are decorated with ads for local businesses. Behind the scoreboard is an enormous American flag that is mounted to the wall, along with various colored flags hanging beneath it. Overall, the game is less violent than Daniel had expected it to be. Players occasionally tripped or slammed into the sideboards, but they quickly got up and went back to chasing the puck around the ice. An announcer occasionally reads out the names and numbers of players who assist, score, or receive penalties, but it's hard to understand his voice booming through the sound system. Every time a goal is scored, someone plays a little flourish on a snare drum, and the players circle the rink in triumph, touching the gloves of their teammates on the sidelines. When play is paused for another reason, recorded music is piped over the speakers while the players and puck move to new positions. Most of the time, all we hear are the sharp clacks of sticks against the puck and the muffled shouting of the players from beneath their helmets. They move so smoothly when they're not racing for a shot that there's almost something relaxing about watching them glide over the ice, at least until one wild swing sends the puck flying over almost half the rink before being deflected by the armored goalie. None of us really cares who wins, we just cheer when someone scores a point. It doesn't seem to teach Daniel anything about America, but at least we had a new experience together and we all had a good time. After the game, Professor Van Braun goes home, and the rest of us decide to go to the Glen to celebrate and have dinner. We just grab a bunch of tables in the front of the restaurant and pick up American menus so that the freshmen can order things like burgers and chicken tenders if they so wish. Jacob offers to order for them if they want to try something new, but the freshmen seem squeamish about the possibility of being tricked into eating an eyeball. "How about this?" I offer. "Why don't we just pool our money and get a bunch of appetizers for the table from both sides of the menu? That way, we can all try a little bit of everything." This seems to satisfy everyone except Virginia, who also orders a milkshake and a side of some meat dish exclusively for herself, which no one had any real problem with. We're all sitting around talking about classes and spells and the game, when suddenly Minnie gets a concerned look on her face. "What is it?" Virginia asks through a mouthful of food. You look like you've seen a ghost, Barbara adds. Ellen had decided that she didn't want to come to the hockey game in order to spend more time trying to figure out what was going on with Musette, and I didn't push her, but I wished she was here now. It's nothing. Minnie tucks a strand of hair behind her ear and physically looks down at her plate. Is that Professor Grabiner? Daniel asks, and suddenly the whole table is pushing to see around Minnie. The restaurant is crowded for a Saturday night, but I eventually spot Hieronymous in a far corner. He's not wearing his hat, but he is smiling as he takes a sip of something from a wine glass. He looks like he's having dinner with someone. A female someone. I've never seen her before in my life. She has long, wavy red hair, and she's wearing a skin-tight maroon shirt with the V-neck that is cut way, way too low. Whoa, is that Grabby's date? One of the freshman boys mutters, and anyone who knows anything immediately looks to me for an explanation. I've never seen her before, I say, trying to seem nonchalant as I settle myself into my seat, but I know Grabby does have some friends in the area. That was a lie, and they all knew it. Still, no one tries to correct me on it. Anyway, Virginia, you were talking about trying to do ice hockey in a sports club? Well, yeah, if we can ice magic the floors, Virginia retorts. And, how were you going to go about doing that again? While they talk about that, I feel a gentle probing in the back of my head, and I notice that Minnie is staring at me intently. I open myself up to it and hear her voice in the back of my head. Are you okay? I have no idea who she is, I reply immediately. Do they look like they're having a good time? Do they look like they're on a date? They do, Minnie confirms. I thought things between you two were okay. I don't mean to pry, but I thought things were okay too, I reply. I mean, we've had a few arguments here and there over petty stuff, but we just celebrated Valentine's Day together. There was nothing that would indicate that Hieronymous would go out and start dating someone else. He's always at school anyway. Where would he have even met her? I'm not sure, Minnie replies. Maybe they really are just friends? But Hieronymous didn't have friends, and we both knew that. No, whoever the stranger was, she was older than me, she was more conventionally attractive than me, and she was probably from a magical background. Maybe that's why Hieronymous had never brought up the boarding school to me after his father mentioned it. Maybe that's why he didn't seem to be in a big hurry to repair a relationship after the silent treatments I'd been giving him the past few weeks. I was always so worried about what I would do if I lost him that I guess I failed to realize that I already had.